Hello, good night. Here we are. It is Friday, the 6th of March, and I have ideas about what I want to do when I go live, and then because this is intuitive politics and tarot cards and astrology, I just have to kind of feel what changes and what shifts based on the day, based on the mood. Usually my mood is based on intuition. So because we're in such an interesting time, things can change and shift pretty quickly. And so last night I thought I was going to look at Pete Hegseth's chart, and I still feel like I need to look at his chart, but I don't particularly care about his chart because the way I kind of look at most of the stuff going on is actors are going to act, right? So, like, I was thinking about how I'm a millennial and we have dealt with war pretty much every millennial generation, like, since we were like 5 or 6 or even younger. Pretty much our whole life. All we've known are these senseless wars, and there's always actors. So, I don't really care about Kristi Noem. I don't really care about Pete Hegseth. I don't really care about them. Like, I just don't. I think they're henchmen, quote unquote, that whatever is going on, they're going to play out the regime. And so it doesn't lighten my soul up to look at their chart. But one of the things I'll just pull up his chart. I've never looked at his chart at all. The thing that I want to look at or look for are what transits are going through his chart. So, like, why is he being used as a henchman? So he was born Friday, June the 6th, 1980, 8:28 p.m. in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He is a metal monkey, Chinese zodiac. His numerology is 3, the creative number. So he has his ascendant in Sagittarius, or his sun in Gemini on his descendant. So it's opposing his ascendant. And then he has his moon at 28 degrees of Pisces. His midheaven is at 4 degrees of Libra, which makes the opposite side his mid-year in Aries. So when we see people with public charts, and yesterday I looked at Bill and Hillary Clinton, we want to look at a couple of things. We want to look at their ascendant, and we also want to look at their midheaven, or something called their 10th house, their 11th house. And then for people receiving a lot of relational dynamics, we want to look at their descendant, their 7th house. Then karmic points, we want to look at their north and then also their south node, especially their south node. We want to look at their Saturn and their Pluto and anything that connects to them. So the thing about Pete Hegseth's chart that I wanted to kind of take a gander at is, what does he have in the fixed signs? And what does he have in the mutable signs? So he has his moon in the mutable signs, Pisces, Venus in Pisces. What else is getting lit up? The deepest part of his chart. So his life that maybe he tries to hide is actually out into the world, because we just had the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. It is going to be going over this, so he will have developing stories in his life throughout 2026, 2027, and so forth. He has his Uranus, which is he's going through his Uranus opposition, which is a big time in your like early to mid 40s. That's why they call it a midlife crisis. you're going through what's called a Uranus opposition. So usually around the age of like 42, 43, 44-ish, you're going through something called a Uranus opposition. He went through that about 2 years ago, but he's still in process of this. He has his Uranus at 22 degrees of Scorpio. His north node is at 22 degrees of Leo, not quite in, with the royal star of Regulus, but his north node is on Donald Trump's Mars ascendant. So he is definitely somebody who's leading him, or not saying he's leading Trump, he'll end up axed if that is what the case is, but he's the paladin, he's the knight of swords, so his direction, he directs, he helps lead towards a direction of Leo stuff, which is kingdom energy. We will be having a nodal reversal, so a reverse of karma. We will not be seeing that. I mean, again, he has just a very active chart over the next 2 years. So his chart is very, very active. Oh, wow. So I tried to, 5 of Cups. So he's somebody who is meant to bring us through a time of sorrow. Return of the Mother Tree and the Ten of Light Code. So the administration has discussed this holy war, and I actually wasn't going to go live on YouTube, so I'm live on X. I actually was just going to be staying over here on X, but I'm just going to record this, so I have 2 things recording at once. But I'm going to be a little bit more on the conspiracy side today, so we'll see how this goes on X. But, the Trump administration has made an announcement that they are in a holy war. And I've been calling this out for years, that this is what is happening, especially when we started going through COVID. COVID was the great conjunction of 2020. Do I think that they are the holy actors? No. But I think they think they're the holy actors. I think there's a lot of activity for this reason, for these purposes, where, wow, the royal fixed star of Regulus is in different actors' charts, right? So I'm going to read an email. Let me see if I can bring it up. I got shit on this from let's see. This is from my personal Gmail. I'll see if I can do okay. This is from June the 12th, Friday, June 12th, 2015, sent at 8:01 p.m. I don't think they're still in business. Extra Mile client. So I used to live in New York City. I'm a comedian. If you look at my hand and ever see this is a bite. Please don't get worried what it was. I had to get my hand sewn up December the 5th of last year and drive from Ocala, Florida, all the way up 95 with a sewn up hand. Long story, that story will be told another time. So I had to drive from Florida to Maryland December 5th, and there was freezing rain that day. I don't particularly enjoy driving in any sort of weather anymore, but it tested my intuition, and I just asked my angels to help me because I had an NDE in really bad weather, and I tried. That's why I moved to California, and then California weather started going haywire. So anyway, this is from Extra Mile Clients. This is background casting. I used to do background work. New York City. When I lived in New York City, it was one of my many jobs. I was starting out stand-up, so I was starting out stand-up. I don't know if anybody ever saw the show Rushing on HBO, but in the show, Pete Holmes is like a barker on the street, McDougal Street, and I did that for, it's called the Grizzly Pear, and Greenwich Village Comedy Club, and then also Broadway Comedy Club, and then I did like background work and so many different things to keep the bills paid. But Extra Mile was I was able to get on many different sets at the time and just like learn, because I never really cared about acting, nor do I really care about it. Like once I stopped doing background work, I never really went back, but I was on some really cool sets. And this is one that I actually turned down. June the 12th, 2015, 8:01 p.m. Okay. Hi there. We are working, this is a small background casting agency. Hi there. We were working, helping one of our associates out at Gotham GR, has their link. So, there were sometimes when they needed to cast people and there were bigger clients, etc., they would go through different routes. So, like, I was even submitted for, like, somebody who was, like, a stand-in, because they just need to get, like, certain shots ready, but they can't have the actor on set because it's not part of their contract, and they don't, that's not part of their job. They submitted me for roles like that. So I did mainly just sitting in the back. I was on Louis. I was on Amy Schumer's movie. I was on a couple of those like CBS like things that like people watch in nursing homes, where it's just like anything you could think of. Like there was one with like Lucy Liu. I don't remember the name of the show. Let me think of what else I was on. I was in a lot of pilots, like that never aired, but they needed like scenes with background actors. There was this one on ABC about a time traveler, and I got to wear like a full corset. So you even got paid to like get corset fitting or costume fitting, like for time pieces or time, things related to different eras. And I was in like a full like bustier, and they had me, so I had to get a corset fitting. I was on the one with uh, Kimmy Schmidt. I'm in the closing scene of that, so I'm actually featured on that, on the first episode, the pilot episode. And I'm trying to think of other things. I was in a whole bunch of things, and I don't know why I don't care. I just don't know why I don't care. I know that actors really are like, I respect the art of acting, but I just never felt right about acting, especially with what came out about Britney Spears. And I have my whole thing about that. So we'll get to Britney Spears in a moment, but let me read this email. We are working, helping one of our associates out at Gotham GR, has their website, gothamgr.com, with a big event happening on Tuesday, the 16th of June, 2015. This is an event to support Donald Trump and an upcoming exciting announcement he will be making at this event. This event is called People for a Stronger America. The entire group is a pro-business group that is dedicated to to encouraging Donald Trump and his latest ventures. This event will be televised. We are looking to cast people for the event to wear t-shirts and carry signs and help cheer him in support of his announcement. We understand that this is not a traditional background job, in quotes, but we believe acting comes in all forms, and this is inclusive of that school of thought. The event is happening live and will be from 8:45 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., less than 3 hours. This will take place interior, so they have to let you know if it's like an interior, exterior, if it's a fall, winter. A lot of times, because certain things are filmed at certain times, you could be in a t-shirt in the middle of New York City filming something during the winter. Okay. The rate for this is $50 cash at the end of the event. We would love to book you. If you are interested and still available, please let us know, and we will get back to you with confirmation. Thanks so much. Signed, at the time, I guess it was my casting agent. So let's look up June 16th, 2015, Donald Trump announcement. So let's just see what comes up. CBS. I think it was June. This is 3:31 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Transcript. This is via CBS News. Donald Trump announces his presidential candidacy. Donald Trump. Now it's all these pop-ups. Let me just see what I can get through where the pop-ups are. Slow this. CEO Trump Organization delivers a presidential campaign announcement, New York City, June 16th, 2015. Speaker Donald Trump. Wow, whoa. That is some group of people. Thousands. So nice. Thank you very much. That's really nice. Thank you. It's great to be at Trump Tower. It's great to be in a wonderful city, New York. And it's an honor to have everybody here. This is beyond anybody's expectations. There's been no crowd like this. And I will tell some candidates, they went in. They didn't know the air conditioner didn't work. They sweated like dogs. Pop-ups are keeping this from. All right, I'm just going to read a couple more sentences. Damn. Hold up. It is stuck. I cannot. CBS. I cannot scroll up. It is frozen. It is frozen. Okay. I cannot scroll up to the sentence above it, and I think the sentence above it is something I need to read. Okay. Well, the sentence I cannot read above it, but find this article via CBS News. It's coming from more than Mexico. It's coming from all of South. And now it's just scrolling. I'll wait. Okay. Really, my computer does not want me to read this. Hold on. Okay, here we go. They didn't know the room was too big because they didn't have anybody there. How are we? I don't know. Now it's just okay. Basically, this is the CBS article. You can read it. It's his announcement. It's coming from more than Mexico. It's coming from all the southern countries. It's coming probably. This is so weird. My computer. Okay. Basically, he's discussing terrorism in the country's Persian Gulf. Of the Persian Gulf. I'm trying to be correct in how I say that because I've learned that if we use the term Middle East, it's actually like not great. So that is from CBS. My computer is frozen, and now it's just buffering. So we'll see. That is the announcement, and that is what I was asked. So let me just check his chart. Let's see. It doesn't want me to read this article. The Donald Trump natal chart. sometimes I start with a chart and it takes me out. His birthday is the 14th of June, so it was 2 days after his birthday that he made the announcement. I'm playing frequency right now on here, and because my computer keeps buffering, Archangel Michael, their Guardian Angel Bliss by Jack DT. That is the YouTube channel I am playing right now to shout out the music I am playing. Archangel Michael, the Guardian Angel Bliss by Jack DT. Now it's saying that I have to re-enter my Google password. No, I don't know. Obviously, what I said is something I needed to say. And, you know, my whole thing is if you put 2 and 2 together, I just wonder if a lot of these actors are actors. You know, I wonder if a lot of these people are actually like Christy Known, like the people on the internet make fun of her and they're like, oh, she's, you know, they make fun of her looks, they make fun of, you know, that's the easy thing to go to. Nobody's looking. But it's just these people are in a role. And so, you know, in many ways, I do wonder, like, he was the perfect candidate for this role in so many ways. And I do think he believes deeply in the role he is in. And his chart is so aligned with everything that's going on. So when they say, like, it's a holy war, I definitely agree. I definitely believe that it is a holy war. But it's not them fighting for, like, the good. They're in a holy war, and they are part of the war on discernment, the war on understanding ourselves, the war on the fact that I'm sure Donald Trump knows that his natal chart is intertwined with all of this. You know? I'll look at Christy Gnome's natal chart just for reference, but I don't necessarily, like, think it's going to make a difference. So, let's see. She is born November 30th, 1971, time unknown, in Watertown, South Dakota. Her sun is in Sagittarius, her moon is in Taurus. We don't know her ascendant, so when we don't know somebody's ascendant, we work outwards. So we work from her inner planets and kind of go out that way, because when we don't know a time, we set it for noon. Her Chinese astrology zodiac is the metal pig, and her birth path is 5. So when you see a 5 birth path, this is like a creator of chaos, and my stomach started growling for that, so that's good. This is somebody who's meant to be, sometimes we have chaos, whether we want to call them makers, magicians. So for her party, for her side, for where she is doing her role. Her sun is at 7 degrees Sagittarius, so we don't know her ascendant. So let's look at her Mercury. Let's look at her Venus and Mars, and then we're going to look at her nodes and her Saturn. So we'll start with her Mercury, which is at 27 degrees of Sagittarius, which is on something called the galactic center. Now, the galactic center is technically, it's considered like the point of the universe in many ways. So when something around the late degrees of Sagittarius, that's considered kind of the point of the universe. It's a very galactic vortex point, so that's where her voice is at. Her mind and voice are actually in the vortex. They are channeling. So if she were to use her chart for really good, she's a great intuitive channeler. Her Venus is at 2 degrees of Capricorn. So when we look at somebody's Venus and see it in Capricorn, we have to look at her Saturn because her divine feminine energy is used or is worked with energetically through her Saturn. So I'm going to go to her Mars first and then her Saturn. Her Mars is in the sign of Pisces, which is ruled by Neptune. So we're going to look at her Neptune. Her Neptune's behind the sun at 2 degrees of Sagittarius, and her Saturn is in Gemini in retrograde at 2 degrees of Gemini. So she has something called her Sun Neptune opposite her Saturn. Very karmic chart. If her chart was used for the good of humanity, it would be one that holds a lot of, I don't want to say data. Data is the wrong word. A lot of frequency. She most likely can be a channeler. It's from the paternal side of her family. Most likely she had a very smart grandfather, or she had a very intellectual paternal lineage. There's something deep about books, ancient wisdom, ancient texts. And her Pluto is actually, it's generational, so she's like what, Gen X? No, Z, right? Gen Z? Gen X. Gen X. Her Pluto is in Libra. And that Pluto is receiving an opposition from the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So this Saturn-Neptune conjunction, if she doesn't, she was meant to take a karmic hit for a male in her family. This is very similar to yesterday I reviewed Hillary Clinton's chart. She does have divine protection, deep divine protection with the sun that she has. She's very lucky. So let's look at her north and south node for her karmic points. Her north node's in Aquarius, her south node's in Leo. Her south node is on, hold on, let me look at Donald Trump's chart. Notice that my computer chilled out when I stopped looking at that. Okay. Let me see where that Leo is for him. Okay, so this is generational for Trump, but not for Christina. So her north node is on, her south node is on Trump's Pluto. That is tough. That is tough to have as a synastry point between people. So let me actually go get a rosary from. I'll get a rosary. I'll be right back. Okay, so I just am feeling like I need to hold this, so I am. Okay, so the thing is, when you have like a Pluto South Node connection, and a lot of millennials have this millennial generation have this natally. So support your fellow millennial, because millennials have like a natal South Node in Scorpio with Pluto, which is like part of their generational karma. But part of her generational karma is literally like she had to meet Trump. He's got his Pluto on her south node, and her north node is in Aquarius. So if she wakes the fuck up from what this is, she might speak out against the administration, but she's got the chart that can. So it might be she's got her Lilith and Scorpio square her nodes. It might, let me pull a card on her. She might come out with information as a whistleblower. We'll see. Let's see what the chart, let's see what the cards say. Forward motion, 3 of light codes. She knows something that she needs to talk about, but I don't know how she's going to get that information out because she's got a lot of Sagittarius in her chart. Sagittarius is not one to be quiet, and she's got her Mercury there, but her Venus goes towards Saturn, judgment, the great awakening, collective awakening. Is Kristi Noem going to be a whistleblower? Is she going to be a whistleblower? Return of the Mother Tree, 10 of light codes. In a way, she is. Why was no, we know she was demoted. She was not fired. She was demoted. Why did that happen? The initiative portal. She had to be demoted. It's almost like energy, like a frequency. She was a autonomous initiator, paladin. This is her. This is her opposition with Saturn and her. So when you have like her Neptune's behind her sun, but a Neptune, like a Sagittarius with Neptune on the sun is so powerful. That is public figure, period. That is somebody who's like a great musician. That's someone who's like a great creator, a great artist, but she has a Saturn opposition to that. So it's like, in order for her to be free, she has to conform to these male doctrines. But her voice, like, it's almost like she's captured. That's the thing of Britney Spears. Let's go to Britney. Go to Britney. Go to Britney. Britney, I'm not going to look at Britney's chart. Actually, what I'll do, so it was said that Britney Spears was arrested. I don't believe it. My spidey sense does not freaking believe that at one bit. I've been deciding whether I will look at her chart and people like Amanda Bynes, because I don't think it's fair to look at their chart because they've been taken advantage of enough in their lifetime for to have their public data public. Like it doesn't feel like they wanted to do it, like they just wanted to do what they do for fun. So instead of like looking at Britney Spears' chart, I'm gonna discuss the solar plexus chakra. Especially this is for like millennial women, especially. The solar plexus chakra, millennials and like generations that maybe resonate. So if you resonate with any of my readings, good, cool, that's awesome. There's so many other readers out there. If you don't resonate, because I talk about a lot of Pluto things, because that's part of my life path. I don't talk about, I'm not a sugar-coated reader. So like, yes, be positive, absolutely. Yes, raise your frequency, absolutely. But there's also things like taking the things from like the darkness and putting them into the light. That's like a really important part because we all have our shadows. But I think the collective shadow is a huge part of what a lot of generations are feeling, because Hollywood utilized a lot of the knowledge of frequency work and mudras and dance and singing, which is frequency, energy, vibrational energy, to kind of direct us in our mental health and our perceptions and what we view as truth and what we view as reality. So when I saw that Britney Spears yesterday on the 5th of March was arrested, which I had said in a previous video, I was talking about water and submersibles, frequency. Water energy is also our creative energy, our creative life force. So like a lot of times water sign people, especially like Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, a lot of like healing modalities and a lot of career fields for these signs are in the arts. But what is the arts right now? Well, a lot of the arts is exactly that email I read. Like the work that's available for people is working for these agencies or working for these actors that knew that the creative life force itself was something to like the cup of life, the fountain of life, you know, was something to F with because that's where all of the power comes from. So of course, like, you know, we have these like I don't know. So I pulled the Radiant Feminine, the Priestess of Light code, which is the Queen of Wands, Queen of Fire, and fire is creative as well, creative life force. Every element has its own creative, creative modality. Courageous of alignment, Seven of Wands. I feel like I need to keep talking about this. So just keep discussing this. I might not use cards right now because I'm in like channel mode. And if you see me pull a card, it's just to see if like I'm on the right track. Justice. The Labyrinth, the Seven of Cups, the Mountain. So a couple of different things, like when we think of Amanda Bynes, when we think of Britney Spears, when we think of that whole like Nickelodeon and Disney, I've even like I was a huge Swiftie for a long time, and I actually stepped back over like the last few months. And there were times in my life I was never a Swiftie, but it was like during 2020 that like for some reason like Taylor's music started speaking to like it was like I was listening and I was like understanding like the poems that she wrote, and then I kind of watched the patterns of Taylor, and I was like, I need to step back because I I realized that she is benefiting. So there's people like Britney Spears and Amanda Bynes, and then there's these celebrities like Taylor Swift that are very different than say a Britney Spears. And so I had to kind of recognize like Britney is very much a victim of HT. Like whether we want to call that what it is or not, and her her branding, the people that branded her, because like I shared a video about cattle, and a couple of years ago in 2023, I don't think people remember, but there were like so many cattle farms, like just burning down around like Nebraska and different like, Midwestern American farm towns. And I recorded a podcast, I think it got like 5 listens about this, that we needed to keep an eye on this. But then it got me thinking about how people are branded just like cattle in these Hollywood situations that they didn't ask for. I think that somebody like Brittany, whether she's here or not here, is a perfect example of somebody who was branded like a cat, like cattle. And I think that she had no say in it. She didn't understand. She just wanted to do what she loved. She was truly a pure soul that wanted to sing, dance, and be a creative life force on this planet. And I think that's the most evil thing that one can do, is to take away somebody's soul essence and put it into a capitalistic brand, you know? And I've said this for years and years, but there's a reason why when you go to Battery Park, why you go to Battery Park in Wall Street and there is a golden bull by the water. It is an altar. Now it's since been rebranded and they put like another bronze statue of like a girl in front of the bull, like taming the bull. But the idea is, the capitalistic nature of society. And this gets me into the chart of New York City. There's a couple charts for New York City. Again, I'm intuitively following my intuition on what to look at. And the one I'm utilizing, this is it. New York City. There's two charts for New York City. So we have a January 1st, 1898. Let's see if there's the other one. And then we have May 16th, 1626, and that's the one I'm gonna for Manhattan. So the reason why is because I think this is the chart Wall Street uses. And so I'm gonna look at this chart. And New York City, Saturday, May 16th, 1626, 8:56 a.m., Manhattan, New York. Taurus Sun, Moon in Capricorn, Ascendant in Cancer, numerology path 9. So we have a Venus Sun. So New York City's chart is Sun conjunct Venus, Moon on the descendant, exactly opposite the ascendant. So that is 27 degrees of Capricorn, and the ascendant is at 25 degrees of Cancer. The north node is at 1 degree of Virgo, and the south node, exact opposite, is the south node Rahu, and Ketu, the head and tail of the dragon, is 1 degree of Pisces. So that New York is about to have a nodal return, aren't they? A nodal reversal. Going through a nodal reversal. Karmic reversal. New York City, energetically. The thing that I want, New York also has its midheaven as a city chart for Manhattan at 8 degrees of Aries. So that Saturn Neptune is going to be affecting the New York City chart. The other thing is Venus will be over this soon, then Mars, and then Mercury. Taurus is the energy of finances. Again, I get forward motion here. The 3 of Wands. Taurus is the energy of the stock market. Isn't it interesting that we call it the stock market? You think of like stockyards, branding, pineal pioneers. If bird medicine means anything to anybody, like large birds, if you see large birds, it might be a sign from a family member, a crossed loved one. Why am I looking at New York City's chart? Why has my intuition led me here? The lights collect in the world. The lights collect in the world. The lights collect the microcosm of the macrocosm. It's a microcosm of what's happening globally. You can't have Washington, D.C. without New York City, and you can't have New York City without Washington, D.C. And yesterday I was talking about twin flames, and I kind of feel like New York and DC are like a twin flame energy as cities, where maybe it's interesting because DC I think is a Pisces. Hold on. Let me look up DC's chart. What am I'm getting to something here. Washington, D.C., September 9th, to a Virgo. Is this DC's chart? 1791. Trying to feel it out. So, it depends on what. Sometimes you look at the incorporation chart, and sometimes you look at. So my intuition says to look at the. So the earliest incorporation is 1802 for Washington, D.C. But I just don't want to make the wrong decision here and look at the wrong chart. So I intuitively feel there are two charts, but right now I'm going to look at the DC chart for September 9th, 1791, 12:01 a.m. and birth path 9. There are two different charts, and this is a sun in Virgo, moon in Aquarius, ascendant in Cancer. This is not all the data we can have on this chart, on this city, but it's a piece of data I need to look at right now. The midheaven is receiving Mercury retrograde over it. The midheaven is in the middle of Pisces, which is a mutable sign. I'm so tired of looking at Donald Trump's chart. Do I have to look at his? The thing that it is interesting is Donald Trump is a lunar eclipse baby, and his north node, south node, and then he has a sun Uranus on his north node in Gemini, and it's what's called a mutable. It's a mutable cross to the midheaven and nadir, the deepest point of this particular DC chart. I almost feel like this is like the more private DC chart to look at. This is something that because DC Insider pops up in my mind, and so I wonder if this more deeply aligns with that, which makes me wonder if DC is actually the divine feminine of, if we were to look at New York City and DC as a twin flame relationship. I wonder if DC is more of, if I were to look at the two charts though, of New York City and DC, New York City is technically the divine feminine because the energy is in Taurus, the bull, the Venusian sign, with Venus conjunct the sun, the ascendant in Cancer and moon in Capricorn. But the energy is so much action in that city. That city is very action based. And DC is like a sleepier, slower, paperwork, slow burn town, like slow vibes, humid summers, slow energy, more southern. So I'm gonna say intuitively, if I were to look at this, I would say that DC is the divine feminine energy of the two charts, just feelings. This has nothing to do with logic here. Because logically, Virgo, you think divine masculine energy. Moon in Aquarius, very logical, very intellectual. Pluto. So DC will have, based on this chart, a Pluto return, but this is going to take years to get to. Is this going to let me go live? Sorry, I'm on the live over here, but my other live popped out. So I have to do it again. And it's very frustrating. Okay, this is part 2. So I was looking at the chart. I was looking at the chart of DC and New York City and talking about how they were like twin flame energies. Or like, yeah, I'm going to go with that. And that DC, let's see what this card says on the bottom. Reclaim your power. Okay, so DC recap. I'm looking at the charts. If you want to see, I was doing a live stream and this one got interrupted on X. I'm still live on YouTube. And so I feel like DC is the feminine twin flame, even though technically it's like a more masculine, logical energy. And then I feel like New York is the masculine, even though it's like a very Venusian feminine energy. And I don't know why I went down this rabbit hole, but I just feel like I need to kind of pull some cards on it. So this is DC and New York City. autonomous initiator. That is the Knight of Wands. So Year of the Horse is going to reveal a lot of things about the maybe inner workings of DC. In it, but not of it. In it, but not of it. So meaning like observe, but don't absorb. We're watching a shift globally for a reason, the Wheel of Fortune. I do think this is like a card of like astrology and cosmic studies. If any like wild cat energy means anything to you. Is there anything else? Oh, and DC has I just missed this because I was looking too. I wasn't looking. See, it's a Virgo. There is a mystic rectangle in DC's chart, and that is the sign of the mystic. That is the sign of life. Like whenever I read for somebody and they have a mystic rectangle, they are a mystic, and they just have to learn. Look at her. She's back, the high priestess, 3 days in a row, and then harmony through it in adversity. Music, mantra, meditation, and for some fasting will be very helpful right now to get through the difficult times. Lots of DC. Let's look at New York's chart. New York City. Moon square to Jupiter and Neptune and Lilith. Well, it's Lilith, Jupiter, Neptune. There's a lot about 222. I just hear divine protection. Is this about like the collective? I'm feeling this in my crown chakra. This card said for all, so I feel like this is like collective, but it was like looking at New York City. So I wonder if it's about like the economy. The sword of assertion, the paladin of activations, which is the knight of swords. Saturn in New York, the karma of New York is on the north node of the chart in the third house of communication. So it's interesting because a lot of moving parts, even with a lot of authority, because Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is in Gemini in the 11th house. So obviously a lot of media comes out of NYC. Just constant media, constant news. Oh, there's a Saturn. Not quite a Saturn Sun connection between DC and New York. I just heard sacred honor when I moved back on over to DC's chart, and here's the meadow. So let me read from this book, The Ace of Earth Guardians. Aces are pretty important to note. Number 64, which is also going to create new starts for for many. So Earth Guardians. The Meadow. The Ace of Earth Guardians. Okay. The time is right for your visions and goals. That's the Ace of Pentacles. To prosper. So it's time for your goals to prosper. Revel in the abundance of support available and meet it with your clear intention and strategy. The card implies that wealth is coming your way through new financial opportunities or a windfall. It may also signify abundance and new opportunities in relationships, inner fulfillment, and love. Recognize that you are at the initial stages of manifesting your goals. Your ideas are ready to blossom into being, and the soil is fertile and ready. Enjoy this blessed time of prosperity. Feel the flowing energy of gratitude coupled with surging forward and taking things to the next level. This card encourages you to consider the next phase of expanding your blossoming ideas. Keep your eyes open for perfect synchronicities and opportunities as they appear and ground them further. So I'm just going to go with keywords: birthright to abundant financial life. So I wonder if a huge part of this is like the system itself that told us what the economy was supposed to be. This is like a new forging ahead of what, like as the old system's angel light, the nine of activation, the nine of swords. So like the anxiety, this card is about anxiety. And a lot of people's anxiety now, especially, is about money and prosperity and how are we going to stay housed? How are we going to pay our bills? The Desert, the Four of Pentacles, and this is like really guarding your energy. It's an energy, like our energy, and that's why I was talking about Britney Spears earlier. I was talking about Amanda Bynes earlier. Even like so many examples of people whose energy was utilized, branded for sacred currency of other people's benefit. And I think that this message is like, no, we never needed these systems here. But my whole thing is like, I'm also healing from these systems. You know, I'm going to close these charts now. I too am healing from these systems, right? We're all healing from these systems. So let me just, although you are in a great position right now, nothing is guaranteed without you activating it with some determined effort or sense of grounding, whatever that means for you. Consider mapping out a plan for how you can turn ideas into reality and the components, materials, or collaborations you might need. I might lose my voice, but it's okay. Let me just kind of go into flowers are a huge symbol here. Flora. So that makes me think of like the flower, the cosmic flower, the sacred flower of life. And then I think that that's why the Ace of Pentacles is this way, because there was like this cultural ideal of what perfection was in like humanity, or in how a woman is supposed to be held at or look. And I think that when I get back into like the solar plexus chakra, I think generations such as the millennials downloaded this, encoded this into our being, and are meant to either, like with a lot of Scorpio energy for millennials, there is the idea of purging what no longer serves you. But part of that is the imprinting in our actual genetics, and the idea that if our confidence, which is what the solar plexus chakra is all about, which is like you have to have a flat stomach, like Britney Spears, which like her stomach was part of what we were taught was like, if you don't look this way, then you are not a woman. Then you are not a real viable person. You know how crazy that might sound if you were never affected by it. But understand, like, this is the solar plexus chakra. It's like the gate between the upper chakras and the lower chakras. So if you sever it, then you sever the connection between the heart, the throat, the crown, and further chakras, and the inter chakras between them, and the lower chakras, which are grounding, safety, and security. So what is safety and security right now for the world in many ways, but also in the United States where I'm filming right now, is DC is considered our security, and the stock market is considered our security. So what is secure about these systems is absolutely nothing. What really was these systems is they were extracting or taking away or hurt or maybe siphoning. That's word I'm going to use, is siphoning energy. So that gets into like the sacred feminine and how this energy was siphoned and is continuing to be siphoned. I'm going to leave it here today because there's a lot to say, and I don't necessarily know it's time to say it. I'm just going with my intuition. If you're a charm person, I have a little ladybug. I wanted to start to do charm readings. So if a ladybug means anything to you, they're very helpful for gardening. And that's really it. That's all I have to say for today. I will not be live tomorrow, but I will be live on Sunday. And I intuitively feel the time. So I don't really have a time right now. I don't really have anything that I know that I'm talking about. I just go in with an idea and then build out from there intuitively. So thank you so much for watching. Have a good Saturday. Bye-bye. Thank you, X. This is part 2.